Welcome back. Welcome to Bilingualism 101 with Dr. Verghese. I'm Verghese. So in the last lecture, we we discussed about the English in colonial time and uh, English, in fact, language which was used in the colonial world. Uh, and unfortunately, that language was used as a control mechanism to control people uh, in colonial countries like India, where this language has assumed the language of the elite, and you need to have certain credentials for learning and using this language. A lot of strictures were there, uh, but as we have seen in Toynbee's, Arnold Toynbee's uh, uh, opinion that English was used in a brutal fashion. It's not just as a language, but to humiliate the people who work in the British Raj in India. And we cannot blame them for that. And we, in fact, that is what today's lecture is about. It is um, what Gandhi said about this, you know, what Gandhi said about English, you know, why he hasn't rejected English language as a language that dominate Indians, or that the British culture that comes together with English is, though he was not uh, against any culture, but he was really against this pomp and a kind of prejudice that used to come with English language. So Gandhian attitude towards language, as I have in this book, I have described about that. This is one of the things that we have to adapt when uh, English is taught as a bilingual language in the classrooms, because we can get a lot of inspiring thought from Gandhi. That is a very important thing, because as I've been seeing uh, around me, that the language of English has some kind of elitism connected with it. In fact, the as if you look at the language as such, it is not so complicated. It's a language anybody can learn and anybody can use. It is a modern language. But unfortunately, the education system today we follow a kind of hidden elitism connected with it. So people say that you should speak with the correct accent, and you can criticize that whose accent is correct. You know, I mean, in England they speak many accents, and they say that the RP English is the right one, the RP English, but some critics say that RP English is spoken only in some Indians, and Freddie Mercury used to speak RP English. He was also an Indian. Shashi Tharoor and some of those uh, English educated people, British educated people actually speak RP English, but normally this is not spoken in Britain. Uh, other than the professional teachers, or like that. So whose pronunciation is correct? I mean, like, we don't know. So all this now, there is a huge demand for learning English. So there are so many channels and all, actually, giving correct pronunciation, correct expressions. What you know, actually, I confute all this in this book. I refute it. I mean, like I think that these are all unwanted suggestions, because if you know the syntax and if you know the logical formation of form of English, that is essentially you required to know, not the rules. And if you know that, and if you can follow the phonetic form of English, this is what I argue in the book, we will be able to use it easily. Don't have to worry too much about the correctness and aptness and the pomp of English in that way. So in this today's talk, I try to explain this. In fact, I was inspired very much by the work of Chomsky. And Chomsky, actually, the man who introduced the syntactical structure in 1957, and that is one of the starting point for English become a language that is being used by almost everyone in the world now. And he has suggested people actually use minimum, is have a minimalist projecting, minimum grammar, minimum, everything to communicate a language. And he suggested that one of the things that we have to be aware of the logical form and phonetic form of the language. And when you know the phonetic form and logical form of the language, we will be able to communicate in a real way. I tell my communication students to learn the phrase structure, which gives them a switching mechanism from their mother tongue to English language. And when they think in English, you have to think in the structuring formation of English. Like I go home. That I go home by bus and train or something like this. When you make the syntactical procedure, you should not translate from Vatashiva Ieni Vatashiva Ieni bus to train skatte ikimasu. Then that structure is having a ikimasu, I go. Okay, I go ieni home. So this translation, structuring translation, is not on the logical form of English. They try to get confused. So I normally tell my students to get the structuring form correct. And that is possible because that is how the human mind is structured with the language. It's not like you are feeding, as I have been telling in my lecture before, you are feeding with data and you are expecting to get back a result, which is not going to happen in this way. It may work in a computer with a program, but even in the computer case, you need to have a program for the computer to work. So that is very important. So today I will just briefly tell you what Gandhi said about language, English language, because why he hasn't rejected English language as a language that controlled the colonial world. And that is something which we look today. So Gandhi was not against English. Many people who fought against British Raj and all, for example, in Arab countries and all, they rejected English, and they reintroduced the Arab language, Arabic language and all. But in India, they haven't rejected English. And they never thought that English is a domineering language. They, in fact, use it as a communication language, even to fight against British Raj. And you should understand, it is not like Spanish in South America. Everybody used to speak in Spanish, or French in French colonies. English was a different kind of language, which was especially in India. And Gandhi, what he said about language is very telling. I am not anti-English. I am not anti-British. I am not anti any government, but I am anti-untruth, anti-humbug, and anti-injustice. So this is very important. He says that I'm not saying that English should be removed, the British should be thrown out. He says that British have no right to, no justice to live here and rule here, because they are not a part of the society here, But he said much favorably about Muslims, because he said that Muslims choose to live. They're part of the Indian society. They're integrated Indian. British never tried to do that. So he said that its only objection is not about the British or anything, but injustice he cannot stand. So the control of language, using language as a control mechanism, he was against, not against. So he actually studied in Britain, and he understood that the Enlightenment values that was there in Britain, and he thought that in Britain they follow one tradition, and the colonies they follow another tradition, which is very bad, and it is not going to generate any kind of goodness in the society. So the Gandhi's thought on language is actually one aspect you can take up when you teach English as a bilingual language. So it means that bilingual language, as I have been telling earlier also, you will learn to think in one language, your mother tongue. For example, if you are a native learner, you learn to think in your mother tongue, and you learn to think in English also. So thinking in mother tongue and thinking in English, switching between these two languages, has to be practiced, trained in your mind. And this training if it happens well, the brain will become bilingual brain. So there are so many studies. I have mentioned a lot of studies about bilingual brain and how the bilingual brain function. And I have given also a lecture on the functional vitality of bilingual brain, how it acts. And these things actually we have to take into account. What is benefit? I mean, what is the benefit I get? What benefit I get when I learn English as a bilingual language? You get not only communication benefits, that is there, but you can get better thinking ability, and also your brain get a additional vitality. It protect you from getting dementia, Alzheimer's disease, and all these things. So that has been proven by researchers that bilingualism can add certain properties into your uh, uh, into your health, which you don't get it. Okay, and so correct attitude, that is very important. That is why I brought this. Correct attitude towards language is very important. We should not be afraid of communicating in a language, whether it is any language, Sanskrit or Italian or Latin or Chinese or any language is just a human property. It's like food. You can eat Spanish food, and in Tokyo you can eat any kind of food from anywhere in the world, and it digests in the human body normally, and that is the nature of language also. If you learn, if you practice, if you get it with the correct attitude, that is very important. Correct attitude is not that is what lacking in the world. We believe in the colonial humiliation that experienced by the Indian clerks under the British authority is something which is bugging the entire language educators and language learning fraternity. And that is it for today. We will meet with another lecture soon. I hope you will share this, like this, so that and subscribe this channel so that it can benefit maybe more people, or people who think differently about language. This is what I am looking at. My effort is to help non-native English learners to find a way, an attitude and method to learn English. So 今日の話はガンディ様の言葉について話すること。これはガンディ様というの人は特別で直接考えするんですね。この偉い考えとかそういうようなこと彼あまり信じられない。インギリス人にあることインド人にもいる。アフリカ人にもいる。みんなにこれ同じ考えある。これ考えたとき、世界というのは別の方にいた。ね。あの時、イギリス人とか、ドイツ人とか、ナショナリズムとか、そういうような考えであった時、こういうような人間的なことを話す一人ですね。戦争というのは、誰が一番というようなことを決めるためにやった。ね、これ、ドイツ人ですか、イギリス人ですか、そういうな、誰が一番、誰がこの世界を守っていく力ある人たちというようなことで、あの時、ガンディ様が言った、みんな異常です。世界中の中いる人間はみんな同じです。彼、ヒンドゥー教やってでも、クリスチャン教のことを本当で好きでしたから。イギリスでいるとき、彼、enlightenment values とか、そういうようなことを勉強した人です。ね。あれ、enlightenment value と言ったら、人間みんな同じというようなこと。宗教で変わるできない。ね。文化で変わるできないというような話。彼話すことは、誰にも反対でない。彼の反対と言ったら、嘘の反対です。インジャスティスの反対です。そういうようなことで、反対といったこと。私たち英語も学ぶとき、これ偉いとアメリカ人の言葉だと思って、コミュニケーションしないなら、それから私たちの言葉、 日本語でいつも考えてるというのは、やっぱり昨日も私の生徒さん来て話すとき、彼、今英語を話すようになった。昨日彼、電車で一人アメリカ人とあ英語で全部話した。これできないと思った。今、英語で考えするというのは彼にあまり問題じゃない。日本語でも英語でも同じ場合で考えできるという話あった。これはどこやったと言ったら、彼は英語を学ばないからじゃない。ね、彼のアティチュードは変わった。これは一番大事なことです。We have to get a correct attitude. And that in today's uh, lecture, I quoted from Gandhi's suggestion how to look at language. Love to look at a language as a communication medium. それは一番大事。会長の一つ方法です。言葉と。言葉というのは、この誰がなんか偉いとかそういうの話じゃない。あれは別。これ、コミュニケーションというのは一番大事なことです。それで今日の話を終わる。これみんなに、シェアして、それからもっといっぱい人にそれを助けるようになるように私たちやる。Bye for now.